Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today, I have a beautiful couple that I had the pleasure of meeting several months back. This couple actually had me on their podcast, one of the very first podcasts that I had ever been on. So it was very easy decision for me to bring them to the two of them back and to be a part of my show as well, so we can get a chance to get to know them better, and you can actually get to know them in a way that I've had a chance to know them because they're a wonderful and lovely couple. They work together. They love on each other together. They're the epitome of an example of what husband and wives connecting with each other and being on a journey together with one another, through thick and thin looks like. So without further delay, let me introduce to you Mr. Levi Reed and Miss Lamika Renee Reed. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Thank
Uh,
you, Joseph. It's a
uh,
pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad the two of you were able to fit me into your busy schedule. I know you got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we're going to get into a little bit of that at some point throughout the show. But before we start to jump off into the thick of things, I would like to give each of you an opportunity to just share with the audience a little bit about yourselves. So I'll start with you, Lamika. Just kind of tell us tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hi. Yes, again, thank you for having us on. It's such a pleasure and honor. My name is Lamika Renee Reed, and I am originally from Terre Haute, Indiana. And I moved here to Indianapolis, Indiana, about 20 years ago. And I, I hold a master's degree in social work, and I practiced in mental health for about 10 years. And I now work with a biotech company that is changing healthcare as we know it. So I am a mother of three, a stepmother of one, a grandmother or step grandmother of two, and I'm just, you know, going where God is leading me, and I just feel so very blessed. So that's just a little just about me.
Awesome, awesome. That's great stuff. And Mr. Levi,
Excellent.
tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Well, a little bit about me is, I'm born and raised here in Indianapolis area, and, my whole life, I haven't lived here my whole life. I lived in Chicago. I lived in Vegas. I lived in each of those places for 5 years, and, came back, to Indianapolis. Probably been here probably about maybe 8 years now, upon my return. And it's just I just been moving and going to different places. And as I I like to believe that I've been going where the Lord is leading me to go, and stay for as long as He want me to stay. And then I leave and go, go other places. I like to stay, within that realm of doing things. So yeah, I was born and raised here in Indianapolis. And so I went to high school here in Indianapolis, and now, let me see, my professional career is been in the mechanical industry, and so I've been there for 23 years. It will be 23 years in September, or yes, September. And so I moved from the mechanical, from let me see, from the field work to the project management side of it. And so I find myself liking and missing the field work. so
Hmm.
so I enjoy that.
All right,
But
all
anyway,
right.
that's a little bit right there. That's not how I grew up, but that's just a little bit of what I'm doing.
That's cool. That's cool. And of course, the three of us, of course, have the Indianapolis connection. Of course, before moving to Dallas, I lived in Indianapolis for 17 years. And, of course, growing up in Chicago, and that's where a lot of my family is in Indianapolis. So that was a regular, you know, trip. Anytime you're going out of town, that was pretty much usually the places you were going was to Indianapolis. So, definitely have that connection with you all there. So thank you for sharing that little bit of nuggets about us. And like I said, going to dig into that a little bit more. Matter of fact, we're going to do that right now. As with any journey that you go on, your life journey, all the ups and downs and everything that comes along with it, I always believe that, you know, what defines that journey, starts with our beginnings, where it all comes from. And so what I'd like for each of you to do is just to kind of share with us, what was it like in general for you to, growing up in terms of, what the environment was like, the home was like, as well as, any fond memories that you have to share, as well as any challenges, if there was any specific challenges that you faced growing up that you had to combat early on. I'd be interested in hearing what that was like, and what you had to do to work your way through that. So I'll start with you, Lamika Renee. Please kind of share with us. Tell us, what was it like growing up as Lamika Renee in Terre Haute, Indiana? What was that life like?
Okay, well, let's go a little further back then. So, I was born and raised in Danville, Illinois. Is where I was originally raised at, up until around 11 years old. And I can remember Joseph, my mother, she is a hairstylist or retired hairstylist. And I can remember her taking me to the salon. And there was one particular time where her boss actually hired me as a gopher. Now, remember, I'm 11. And so the gopher means go for that, go for this, go to the store, go get that, sweep that hair. So that's who I was. But I tell you, the first check that I had when I got it on that Friday, they lived, or well, didn't live, but they were a high rise. So they were in a um, up upstairs high rise from the bank. And so I took my $30 check that Friday and I cashed it. And I knew right then that this was the journey that I was going to be on. And even at 11, of entrepreneurship, I knew it. I knew it. And so over the course of time, over a course of, I would say, 31 years, I owned three salons. I um, people would sit in my chair and tell me their stories. They would share their challenges, share their wins. And I thought to myself, I said, well, why not go back to school and get paid for it? And to really understand people. So I did. I did just that. So like I said in the beginning, I went back to school, um, got a master's degree, and practiced mental health for about 10 years. And the journey just continues to grow in that path. So I know that I am in my destiny, and the journey it's been rough. It's been rough. It's not been easy, but it is something that I am so blessed to have experienced, because I think without that experience, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I mentioned I've had three salons over the course of 31 years, and I don't have them anymore. So of course, not having that understanding of business, each of them failed. And so yeah, so that's been my journey in entrepreneurship, and even in my childhood. And so when I was 11, my mother moved back to Terre Haute, and we developed. I have three siblings, two sisters and a brother. My mother, she raised four of my cousins. So I had two girl cousins, two boy cousins, and we all lived in this four-bedroom uh, apartment in the projects of Terre Haute, Indiana. I don't know if you're familiar with the projects in Terre Haute, Indiana, but we lived there, and it was tough. It was tough. My mother was single. She did the best she could with eight children in the home, and I think we turned out pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. And so yeah, so that's just been my journey, and I'm just I just feel blessed. I just do. I No matter the ups and downs, the triumphs, tribulations, I know that they were meant for me to experience, so that I can believe in that experience and then take action, and that's what I'm doing. So
Wonderful,
that's me.
wonderful. All
Nice.
right. Thank you for sharing that. I always
Love
think
that.
it's interesting when we think about how it used to be back in the day, like that, where growing up in single parent homes and then still having single parent. I know my mom was similar, in, in terms of letting people stay in the home with us. So you figure, why would you bring somebody in the home if you're already struggling with your own kids? But that just speaks to how parents were that back then. It was just more of a
Yeah.
community type thing, and you
Yeah.
just loved on them. You know, people needed you. You brought them in, and you just figured it out. Everybody ate. Everybody had clothes. Everybody had a roof over their
Yeah.
head. If we had to double up in beds or whatever we had to do to make it work, we made it work. So, and I'm
Mm.
sure you've heard about this. You know, many times we talk about people growing up with little to no means financially, but not even realizing that they were poor because it just didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like you knew it was challenging, but you didn't necessarily equate, being poor per se, as somebody might do today, just because of the camaraderie and love that was going on in that family structure. So great story to tell that
Yeah.
you just
Thank
shared.
you.
I appreciate that. How about you, Levi? Tell us what was it like growing up for you, man?
Man, tell you then, brother Joseph. Growing up for me was was challenging. You know, had its challenges. Like like you guys was poor. I mean, we were poor also. Just to jump ahead, we knew we didn't have much. We knew that, but the house, was just filled with love. And I think that kind of overshadowed the fact that we had less,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I believe that's what happened. And but anyway, man, I grew up in a house. My mother had, like Lamika, my mother was a single lady of 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 9 of us. Let me see, two older brothers and sisters, and I where I fit in the spectrum of the age is I'm the second to the youngest, and I'm the youngest boy, and I have a younger sister that's younger than I am. Yeah, so anyway, we grew up, man. But anyway, we grew up on the south side in projects, man. Laura Wood, don't know if you're familiar with them or not. The Laura Wood projects, and so that time during that time it was man, hungry most of the time. Always ate at my friend's house. Let me see, John Wagner, who is a pastor. Not sure if you know him or not. uh,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, he's a pastor right now in Muncie. He's a really good friend of mine now. Now he's a good friend of ours, and so I would always eat at his house because hey, his mother had 6 kids, right? And she was a school teacher, and so I knew when I go visit him, which I visited daily, I knew I was gonna get something to eat, and she's gonna feed me anyway. I didn't have to ask. She would always, hey, somehow or another, always showed up around dinner time. So I was part of the family, and they tease me about that today, right? They talk about that today, and but yeah, but that's how I grew up, man. And then we moved from okay, from the south side, then we moved to the northeast side, and there, let me see, I went to 101, middle school, and then my high school years are non-existent. Didn't even go to high school. I went to high school for probably about maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And then after that, man, I was having trouble. The reason my stint was so long is probably because it's the way Lord ordained it. My time there is I was having trouble getting meal tickets and bus tickets from the guidance counselor at my high school. And so I went to the principal about it, and and so they talked to him. So therefore, then he started giving us tickets again, right? Because I wasn't the only one. I mean, there was other kids that was from the neighborhood that they wasn't getting any any lunch tickets and bus tickets also. So anyway, he finally started giving them, again. I think that lasted about a month, and then so they would come every month, and then the next month he held them up again, and so he just kept holding them and holding them. And finally, man, I was sitting in class. And by the way, it is so hard to focus and try to learn something when you're hungry.
Mm.
You absolutely cannot do that at all. Those two don't go together because your stomach is is saying, "Hey, you need to feed me." And so and so I was having trouble getting back and forth to school. And so he just told me one day, I called the school, and for whatever reason he answered the phone. I said, I can't make it to school, and don't have any money. You got the bus passes. He said, well, just don't come back. Yeah, he
Wow.
said, well, just don't come back at all. All right, he said, because we don't want you, right? And so so now I'm distraught, right? I hang the phone up, and I tell my mother, she said, well, son, you just gonna have to get a job. And so I went out and got a job, and man, and I've been working ever since. But I've always studied. Education has always been very important to me, and it's still important to me. So I was on a, and still am. I'm on a lifelong pursuit of knowledge. So I'm always learning, and willing to learn things. And so I continue my education just on my own, just studying at home. And man, I studied so much. I studied. I was just intense with it. And so, but anyway, I went on to get a GED. I got my GED late. Let me see, late in life. I believe I was in my early 30s. When I finally got my GED. Hey, but it didn't stop there, brother Joseph. I went and got a bachelor's degree, right, in construction management. Then also I got an associate's degree, also, which I finished with honors. Okay, with the associate's degree, and let me see what else, man, I got other professional certificates and certifications, okay, in my field of project management. And so that's just been the course of my life. And but then I did all that, but I believe that it's the foundation that my mother laid for us, right through prayer and taking us to church, instilling that thing, I mean, instilling that in us, and then also just praying over us and keeping us, and keeping us covered,
Mm-hmm.
with the blood of Christ. And man, and it's just, my life. I look back on my life right now, and I'm like, man, and think where I come from to where I am sitting right now here with you. Man, that ain't nothing but God that's been all over me, watching me, taking me from state to state, from job to job, and meeting Lamika, and just just being there in my life to to keep me on this path, that He has for me. And now that I recognize that I am, that I believe I'm following His path. Yes, I mean, it's very important not to lose sight.
Awesome, awesome. That's a powerful story, man. And I appreciate your transparency in sharing that. You are a perfect example of I don't look like what I've been through, and my prayer is that someone will have the opportunity to listen to this episode that maybe have had some challenges in school because you've made it clear. Just because you had some hiccups or some barriers in school, that doesn't mean that story is an end. I mean, you were out of pocket with that very early in the high school moment, and the fact that you persevered and pressed on in terms of your studying and trying to learn everything that you can, getting your GED in your 30s. There will be a lot of people who, by the time they got to that age, they would have just said, you know what, I'm just going to write that off. But you said no. You were determined to finish the mission, finish the assignment, getting your
Yes,
degrees, and just doing things. So you basically didn't say, yeah, I've been through some stuff, but I'm not going to let that be my excuse or my crutch to say that I can't do more, that I can't be great, that I can't impact the world. And so that's a wonderful story to share in that regard. And I appreciate again your transparency in doing so. That is awesome, man. That's just
yes, thank
that's
you.
that's that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yes, thank you. So I did not let my circumstances define my life,
Hmm.
and I did not let that one person, um, I didn't let that one person turn me into a statistic.
Mm-hmm. And that's important
Right?
that you said that. Yeah, because I mean,
Yes.
because we're always going to be up against people who don't mean well by you, who don't want the best for you. And if you take it a layer deeper, that's the whole essence of in many ways what spiritual warfare is about. There's going to be some people or forces that you see, and some that you won't see that are looking to take you out. And this was clearly a person who was trying to take you out while you were young, trying to put in your
Yes.
head that you were not going to be anything of substance or importance, that you were going to fall into, as you stated, that statistical trap: jail,
Yes.
dead, unemployed, poor father,
Mm-hmm.
all of the negative things that oftentimes, unfortunately, gets portrayed over black men in general. You defied all
Mm-hmm.
of that, and you flipped that script and said, "No, we're going. This ending has a different path that it's going to go on." And more importantly, God had the final say on that. He had an alternate ending to how this thing was going to
Exactly.
go. And the truth is, I'm saying ending, but it's not even over yet. You still in the mix of things, but that's just one of many examples of how God can move in your life if you just lean in Him, stay connected with Him, and you've clearly done that, and you didn't give up on yourself, and that you should be acknowledged and honored and respected for it. I appreciate that. And appreciate you again sharing that transparent moment in your life, because I know that's not always easy to share that. But hey, but it's
Yeah. No.
important. It's important to share, and then there's nothing to be ashamed of. You did your thing, and that's great. That's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yes.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, as we go on through our journeys of life, and you both have already told me some challenges and bumps in the road that you've had. And again, I appreciate you sharing that. One thing that we do discover is that some of our adversity that we experience just hits a little different than some of the other stuff. Every now and then, if you live long enough, you get faced with something that the weight of it, the burden of it is so great that you start to question, if you can get through this. Is this going to be that one thing that's going to ultimately take me out, or I'm going to be stuck in this situation forever? So, what I like to throw out to the two of you, and you can speak of this individually or you can speak of it collectively. The choice is up to you. But I'm curious to know, tell me about a time in life where you were faced with such a moment that you just didn't know, God, this is too much. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to bounce back from this one. I'm pretty good at navigating through things, but this right here hits different. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. And I'll start with you, Lamika. Tell me, what was that journey like for you, that moment in time for you that sticks out, that you said, I didn't know I was going to pull it off. I was going to make it through this thing. But, God willing, I was able to, somehow press through and persevere. And it didn't take me out, because clearly it didn't take you out, because you're here today to talk about it. So what was that like for you, Lamika?
Yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, I have three kids, and during this was back in 2001. I had my last child, Brandon, and I developed cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure. So, cardiomyopathy, at the time, about 70% of women who bear children survived. I'm sorry, flip that, flip it. So, 30% of people who had cardiomyopathy, that's so many years ago, um, survived. 70% did not. And praise God, I was in the 30 percentile that survived. I was actually put on a heart transplant list, and my heart was functioning at 20%. And over the course of time, it didn't, I couldn't, I developed high blood pressure, which became unmanageable. And to the point where I was put on um, a medication that, that didn't it didn't heal me, but it managed my blood pressure. And back in 2015, my son Anthony, he lives in LA. He was on an audition for a commercial. Now I'm saying this for a reason. So he was on an audition for a commercial, and he was on skates, and he went around the room three times, and the third time he fell and completely detached his foot from his leg. And when I say that, I mean his leg was limp outside of the skate. And so in 2015, I flew out there, and a concerned parent asked my son to try this product. And Joseph, over the course of 5 weeks of me being out there, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because my son, he was in high spirits. He was up on his walker. He was getting around, and I felt comfortable enough to fly back to Indiana. And over the course of, now remember, I come from cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure. And over the course of 3 years, Anthony was like, Mom, you need to try this product. You need to try it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to try it. It's not for me. I couldn't even think for myself. I had asked my doctor. Um, I just didn't believe it. And then I tried it for myself. And this is in 2018. And I have a side by side picture floating around on social media, some 2018, well, a social picture floating around, and it was a side by side. Make sure you edit that. So, no, but there's a side by side picture of me floating around social media. And it was a picture of me on the left, which is in 2018, where I was depressed. I was going through a divorce. My aunt just I was going through a whole lot of things, and um, I started to read on this product that my son was sharing with me over the course of 3 years, and I, a light bulb just like that. And I started taking it. I've been taking it daily for the past 3 years, 3, 4, 5 years, and I have no signs of any type of cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure, no anything related to the heart, stroke, um, um, heart attack, anything. And so I I I I know God is first, but I do believe, Joseph, without this product that I've been on for 5 years, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Mm,
Yeah.
Mm, okay.
wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That, like you said, of course we're not dismissing God's role in that, because when you're faced with the odds that are against you in terms of health conditions and things like that, it's God oftentimes who's the one, that, I'm saying oftentimes this, he's the ultimate healer. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, your relationship with him, from a very early age, I think had a major impact on your expediting your healing process, and even that of your sons. Just believing in that, and like you said, God will sometimes allow you to go through particular situations to lead you to that healing source, to lead you to what is going to be necessary to restore you. And thank goodness, in your particular case, because there's a lot of people in these days and times who deal with congestive heart failure and other similar situations, but we all know that every doctor is not, on the same levels in terms of their expertise or their bedside manner or what have you. There's a lot of doctors out here who, they just kind of experiment with you, giving you a whole bunch of different varieties of medicines and things like that, and you don't know what you're putting inside of you. And that's not a knock against
Yeah.
the medical field or anything like that. It's just that it's just so out in the open, right? So it's sort of a toss up sometimes where, if I don't have just the right person who's diagnosing me the right way, things can get created inside of me that wasn't even there at first. So I'm thankful to God that you were able to be healed from that, and that your son was able to be healed, and that you identified a product that would prove to be safe and helpful to you to be restored and rejuvenated, and just all the other elements of what you shared in this story about just going through your challenging times, divorce, and having 3 kids, and just all of that tied together can add further stress to the body
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature. So God is good in working that out for you, and getting you through that challenging moment, because the reality is he still had work for you to do. It wasn't time
Oh
for you to
yeah.
check out yet. And so, and just in the short time that I've known you, It's clear, and I'm sure your husband testifies to this on a daily basis, that you're a person with a big heart. And so, what better fit for God to strengthen that area that's most prominent on you is the heart that you have for people, and wanting to, to change lives. So yeah, sometimes God takes
Mhm.
us in a path that we wouldn't have picked, but nevertheless takes you through that path so you can impact at the highest of levels. So that's great
Yeah.
stuff. What about
And
you,
really
Levi?
quick, then,
I'm sorry. Go
really
ahead.
quick, can I say to share this too, since
Absolutely.
you're tapping into that. So the turn to this story, or my story, is that um, I told you, I shared that I have a master's degree, practiced mental health for about 10 years, and in 2019, when I decided to really research this product just by reading some of the material that was out there, um, I share with my family, my friends, my colleagues, my peers, if my sister, who has really bad high blood pressure, if she got better, she started taking this product, and if she got better, I would resign from my position and share this product full time. And so in 2019 of October, I resigned from my position to share this product full time. My sister got better, so I'm
Awesome.
here today.
Awesome. Hey. And again,
Glad to have you.
sometimes, yes, absolutely. I know you're glad to have her. Absolutely. And again, sometimes God takes us through, very specific, very, original, if you will, type of journeys that we would have never, planned it out like that. But I'm just thankful that it all worked out for your good, and that you're here today to not only share your journey and share your story, but that again, that you're a testament to God's, grace and his mercies and his healing powers that he has. And he's doing a great work in you and through you. And that's just a wonderful thing to share. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
thank you for your transparency in that. And I'm turned over to you, Mr. Levi. Tell me, what was that time for you? If there's a particular moment in life that really sticks out. I mean, you've already shared some powerful stuff as it is, but is there another moment that you haven't shared that kind of sticks out, that I wasn't sure if I was going to get through this. This was tough, and
Yes.
but here you are today to tell it. So what would that story be for you, man?
Well, okay, so it's a traveling story.
Okay.
Okay. So uh so uh so I was living in Vegas and I was moving back to the Midwest. Actually, I was moving to Chicago because I got a job in Chicago. So I'm traveling from Vegas to Chicago. And so of course we have to come through Colorado, right? Denver. And so I said, well, and I had to be there on Friday. And this was Tuesday. And so so I packed up my truck, went home, took a nap. I said, well, I'm gonna leave. Now I knew a winter storm was coming. It was going to hit Colorado. It was supposed to be scheduled to be in Colorado or Denver at 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. I said, well, I'm gonna beat that. So I'm gonna leave at midnight from Las Vegas. So so when I left Vegas, and I should have known this, right? But I didn't pay no attention to it. When it was snowing in Las Vegas at midnight, and the snowflakes was the size of a quarter, right? That should have told me something right there, that I was going to be heading into trouble. But I just ignored it and I pushed on because, I want to go, and I had to be somewhere. And so now I'm traveling. I traveled all night long, drove my truck all night long with no rest until about about 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning. And so I'm driving down, trying to get. Now I'm in Colorado. I'm in Denver, so I'm trying to. So I'm heading to Topeka, right? Because that's the next stop on the other side is is Topeka, and and so. But I seen a police officer had the road closed, right? So they was telling everybody to get off the highway. Okay, we're not letting no one pass. And so but now I didn't see this sheet of ice that was on the other side of the street, right? I mean, that was on the other side of the highway. I'm at a stoplight. Okay, where I need to go, I need to cross this stoplight and then head on into Topeka, right? Start heading in that direction. But like I said, the officer was shooing everybody off. Get off, waving everybody off. Didn't matter what's going on. You got to go. And and when I hit the other side, I went from dry pavement to a solid sheet of ice. And I'm in my truck and I'm doing about 20 miles an hour. 20 miles an hour on ice is fast, really fast. And so there's a ditch on this side. There's a ditch on the left side of me, and also now on the right side of the road was just an embankment, just a ravine. And so I make it. I can see the police officer. He's in my sight. I said, man, if I can just make it to this exit, right? If I can just get there, I'll be okay. But during this time, I look up and see who's behind me. There's a semi behind me, right behind me, and I don't know how he's going just as fast as I am, and I know if I can't stop, he can't stop. and
Mm.
and so so I'm driving and I'm in the left hand lane. I'm scared to move to try to shift into the other lane to get away from that ditch. And so I feel my truck, I feel my truck's tail end kind of fishtail just a little bit, not much. That got my Now I'm starting to panic. But I still hold it. I'm still cool, and I continue on. I look at my rearview mirror, checking the distance from the semi, see how far he is, cause I'm starting to brace myself for impact. Okay, and but anyway, I continue to travel on down, and I travel about maybe another 5 or 10 yards in my truck. And it fishtailed again, but this time it was a little heavier, right? I mean, it really fishtailed. I had to, really steer and get it back in control. And so I did that, and then I checked the review gear. I checked the review mirror again, see how far the semi is behind me, and he's getting closer. And I see the look on his face, and he's nervous too. I can see it in his face. And then so I continue on. I said, man, I am almost there. I'm probably about 50 yards from that exit. I said, I can make it. And and all of a sudden I look down at the ditch. Okay, I still see it's still there. And and man, don't you know, Joseph, man, I traveled for another 5 or 10 yards, and I just lost total control.
Mm.
My total control. My truck is done spun out. It's going down the highway sideways. I'm going down the highway just like this, and I'm looking at the ditch, and I'm screaming. Right?
Hmm.
I'm screaming. Hold up, but this is what I'm screaming though. I'm screaming Jesus, right? I'm screaming Jesus. There was no help, no other help, right? And so I'm screaming that, and so I'm heading to that ditch. I'm heading to the ditch. I see it. I see the bottom, right? And all of a sudden I just let out a Jesus. I mean, just really so hey, I put everything that was in me come
Hmm.
out in that one word, and that one name. And man, I called that name, and my truck stopped on a dime.
Wow.
My truck low, no, no, no. Hey, I'm getting chills right now thinking about that, right? I mean, just talking about it. And I'm not lying. It was like uh it was like, man, a breath of it's like someone just reached out and just stopped me. You know how you're moving and someone grabs you. Hey, come here! Don't. It was That was God right there, buddy.
Wow.
Absolutely. Hey, let me tell you about the semi driver. I see the semi. I look up and see the semi driver. He's going past me, but his eyes are this big.
Mm.
He's like, he probably thinking, man, how did you stop? I didn't stop me because I didn't have my
Wow.
foot on the brake or the gas.
Hmm.
Right, and I'm heading right for that ditch, and just when I said Jesus, I said, "This is it. There it is, Jesus." And man, so I get to Chicago, and I call to pay my insurance bill, my monthly premium. I had just bought that truck too, so it was brand new. It
Mm.
wasn't even 30 miles on it, right? And that truck was like, it was like a $40,000 truck too, right? And so I get to Chicago. I said, I'm calling them up, to pay my insurance bill. They say, sir, your insurance has been canceled for 2 months.
Hmm.
I'm like, for what? I said, I've been paying you. I said, what happened to my last month's payment that I sent you guys? Yeah, they said, well, we don't know. I said, man, I sat there in the parking lot. I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, I didn't have no insurance. If that would have went over, the truck would have
Wow.
been totaled. I'd have been probably in the hospital or dead. It's just, yeah, man, that was the grace of God right there. That was the now I'm gonna try not to get it wrong there. That was the Aruha, I believe, the breath of God, I believe, that stopped me.
Yeah, that clearly sounds like it was a divine intervention for you to, like you said, literally stop on a dime. And anybody's ever slid on ice before in their vehicles, that's not, like you said, brakes are not going to stop. Um, there's nothing you can do but basically wait for the vehicle itself to stop. But as you described it, it wasn't just that your vehicle came to a casual stop. It was almost like as if somebody had grabbed it to to
Yes.
stop it instantly. And again, I know sometimes people hear stories like that and they may think, oh, you got to be making that up. But when you know God, when you're in relationship with him, things like that, miracles, they
Mm,
happen and they're very real. This is not some fantasy type thing. And so what
yeah.
seems to be unusual and just unfathomable, is for real reality. So, being a believer myself, you telling me that I'm shocked, but I'm not, because that's just how
Mm,
God does. And,
yeah.
again, it's a testament that he wasn't done with you yet, and you
Right.
and in the most trying of times, you screamed out Jesus. And what better name to scream out, in
Got
that
that right.
moment. And what did he do? He responded. He
He
said, I
sure
got you.
did.
Boom. We're going to
He
stop
sure
this right
did.
here.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think Buddha or Confucius or Zoroastrians. I don't think they would have showed up like that.
hey, I understand. I understand. So I'm thankful that God spared you, that he had the mercy, the grace, kicking in just in his perfect timing to
Mm,
to stop that situation. And then, like you said, you didn't even know that there was issues with your insurance. So that would have been a whole different set of problems aside. Obviously what's most important is that your life was saved, but
yes.
nevertheless, it also kept you from a financial catastrophe, to have
Yes.
totaled that vehicle and thinking, oh, I'm just going to call this in and it's all going to be fixed. They're going to replace my vehicle. And they will, no, we're not going to replace your vehicle because you don't have insurance. Yeah. So that wasn't nothing but God, man. And I'm not going to water that down any further than that. That was God all day long, looking out
All
for you,
day. Yes.
and then I'm thankful for you, as I'm sure you are, that he did, because he still had work for you to do. He still had
Mm,
Lamika for you to meet. He still had
mm.
things in the plans for you, man. So thank God is
Yes,
good,
sir.
man. You can rest on that right there. God is good. So
Mm, yes.
awesome, man. Wow, wow. I love hearing stories like that. That's great. So for the both of you, when you think about just adversities in general, again, as we go through our different adversities, some of them are big, some of them are small. What has been sort of, a couple of things, one or two things that maybe you tend to do when you find yourself in an adverse moment? Hey, I'm okay. Here's another situation for me that I got to go through, another storm, another life challenge. What do you tend to lean on, to rest in, to kind of help you get through those moments so it doesn't consume you, but you're actually able to withstand it and ultimately press through it? So I'll jump back to you, Lamika. What works for you? when you find yourself in adverse moments?
Hmm, what works for me? Prayer.
Hmm.
Prayer is the first thing. I do love to meditate is another.
Hmm.
Um, Also, I love reading. And so what I've found out is that if you try to do something that you weren't born for, then it's going to kill you. It's just flat out. And what I mean by that is mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it's not going to work. It's almost like, have you ever? I'm sure you have. We all have been in a relationship where you are with someone and you know you like them and you just everything about them is just spectacular. It's like you'll get up in the middle of the night and you'll go running because it's something that is a drive, it's something that is a purpose. You're wanting to get to know that person. You're wanting to maybe possibly marry that person. I'm talking relationships. Business is the same way, but it's the purpose to do good works. And so in that, with the relationship and any relationship, as I mentioned, um, if you don't have that feeling, if you don't have that feeling of just, man, I can't wait to go see her. Oh, I can't wait to, then it's probably not for you. And so again, if it's not born for you, it's not going to work. So meditation, prayer, again, reading is something that I really go to help me get through.
That's
Okay.
awesome. That's awesome. And that's
That's
good
good.
stuff in the sense as well, because to do those things are not things that you just do when you're in the situation. That's things that you do all the time. So, and I think it's important for people to understand that when you talk about being able to effectively address adversities of life, you don't wait until it's here to start doing it. You're constantly praying. You're constantly, in your
Yes,
case, meditating. You're constantly, staying well read, whether it's in the Word or other affirming type of thing. So that way, when that moment hits, you're already armored up. You're already
that's
good to
right.
go. So, and it doesn't mean that it won't hurt. It doesn't mean it won't be inconvenient, but you can withstand the hit, and
Hmm.
that's what's key. So I love that. How about you, Levi? What's kind of your go-to routine, your go-to regiment to say, this is how I prepare myself. This is, to be able to withstand those battles that, of course, they come unannounced most times than not. How do you, stay locked in and being able to withstand such moments?
Hmm. Well, I mean, pretty much like Lamika, except for I don't. Well, first of all, I got a question though. Did you have you ever wanted to get up in the middle of the night while we were dating? Did make you want to run?
Often.
Okay.
She said, "That's my story. I'm
I
sticking to it."
Yeah. Okay. First thing I do is, what I do often is, brother Joe. I just fall to my knees. I just stay there. I live there, and I pray through things, and because I used to pray and ask the Lord, please don't let me go through this.
Hmm.
Right? Don't let me go. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to have to. I don't want to take. I don't want the stress, and I don't want to deal with that. Lord, please don't let me do that. And then here it come anyway. Right? Here it comes. So it's allowed me to okay, to go through this, and ultimately there's a lesson, to be learned, as I go through this time. But it also requires me to to involve Christ in my life even more, because oftentimes I can't deal with it. The stress in the is just too much,
Hmm.
especially dealing with other people. Especially other people, when they think you out of position anyway, but you in position, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to cause you all kind of problems, stress, and don't want to don't want to take instructions from you, and this, that, and the other, and so which causes a lot of stress, and so yeah, man, I just that is a great place to live, is in prayer all the time, and I have allowed God to to fight my battles for me.
Mm.
Right? I can go through it better knowing that what, this is not my fight with you. you know,
There you
I'm
go.
just I'm just a vehicle that happened to be traveling through this little stressful time right now. So that's where I place all my responsibility. I mean, all my stress, my my challenges. I mean, what I'm facing. I just deal with that. I just stay on my knees and, man, pray,
That's
pray
awesome.
all the time.
That's awesome, man. And I love how you said, you talked about I prayed through it, and because you said because I can't do all this, it's too much, and a lot of us struggle with acknowledging that there's things in life, there's storms in life. It's just too much for us, but it's okay that it's too much because it's not for us to carry. It's not that weight for us to do it. Like you said,
Mhm.
it's the purpose is for us to surrender to God. Let Him take the lead. It's not my fight. He'll fight it for me. I just need
Yeah.
to lock arms with Him and let Him ride it out with me, versus me trying to
Mm-hmm.
do it by myself. Go back to your story earlier. You couldn't stop yourself sliding on the ice.
Mm-mm.
That was too big for you. You needed
Yes.
intervention. You needed a
Yeah.
partner that could do it at a level that you would never be able to do. If you tried to do that, you could repeat that same episode 1,000 times and it would not have the same ending. And
Mhm.
probably
Mm-mm.
in every instance, it would probably be a tragic ending. Um,
Yes.
but turning it over, calling out on the one who's capable of doing it, that makes all the difference in the world, whether we're talking about sliding on some ice in the truck or whether you're just talking about the day to day stuff, junk and things that we deal with in life. So I love that you spoke to that because I think it's an important message for people to grab hold to. Quit, and I have to remind myself of that even. Quit trying to pick up stuff it's not supposed to be for you to lift. God's standing right there just looking at us, struggling and stressing and, straining, trying to pick up something. He's like, anytime you want to put
Yeah.
that down and just ask
Yeah.
me, and I'm gonna
And
take that
stop.
thing and roll with it. I'm stand there and let you. If you want food with that, I'm right here
Mm.
whenever you're ready. And
Yeah.
then eventually okay, okay, you done? You done trying to, to take on the
Yeah.
world by yourself? I didn't equip. I equipped you to be able to do certain things on your own. I mean, He didn't make us totally vulnerable and totally weak and unable to do anything. But there are certain moments that it's more than us. It's bigger than us, and we need Him to be there for us. We need Him all times, but definitely in those trying and challenging times. And I like also you talked about I used to pray not to let me go through certain things, but you've now grown and matured in your walk with Christ to understand it. No, bring that too, the successes and norms. I need all of that. I need to count it all joy because I know if you allowed it to come down my path, down my street, you're not doing it because you're trying to hurt me. You're doing it because there's
Mhm.
something I'm supposed to get out of this. I may
Yes.
not know in the beginning what that is. It may take a minute, but if you let it come through, then clearly there's something behind that. There's something in the underlying of it all that in the end it's going to either bless me or it's going to equip me to be a blessing to somebody else. So that's good
Yes.
stuff. That's good stuff.
I
So
like
with
that.
that said, jump back to you, Lamika. If you had a chance to talk to the younger Lamika, go back to the young Lamika, the one who thought that maybe she knew a little bit more than she thought she knew, and she had it all figured out because she's a strong, independent woman. She got it all under control. When you reflect back on all that you've been through, the lessons learned, the trials, the tribulations, and the valley experiences, what would be your nuggets of wisdom that you would share with the younger Lamika that you think if she knew that what you know now, if she knew then, it would help her make the path a little bit smoother for her. What guidance would you give to her?
Okay. I would say get out of your own way. Right before the pandemic, I was going through some things, as I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
and I would sit and I would actually think about me walking down a cornfield, just where there's nothing but straight ahead. And as I'm walking, I would jump out in front of myself.
Mm.
I would block my blood. I know I'm this, I'm that. I would jump and I had to realize that I had to allow God to lead me instead of trying, like you mentioned, doing it all yourself. I had to get out of my own way. Get out of your own way. Keep trying. Keep trying. Um, Never, ever, ever give up. Never stay consistent constantly. Continue to learn through experiences. Let go of what you cannot change, your past. Oftentimes we go there, our thoughts. Learn how to, because in the past our thoughts are, it could look like depression, anxiety, stress, anger, and learning how to let go of that and staying within your present moment is something that I would share with my younger self. You can't predict the future. There's no way you can say, hey, oh, this, if I do this is going to happen. There's no way. So stay within side of your present self and enjoy. That's what I would say.
That's wonderful. That's good stuff, and I love that you shared that because I remember you recently even posted about that on social media, talking about. I think you talked about that side by side comparison. Yeah, the old Lamika, she used to talk big stuff. I used to do this and
Mm-hmm.
that. I got this going on. You can't tell me nothing. And then you show that transition, and that's wonderful to be able to reflect and see the growth and maturity level, and to be able to be honest and transparent about that because we all done had that moment. We think about being kids and growing up. We think we know everything. Our parents telling us this, that, other. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to listen until you get to that point and you're like, oh, that's why they were telling me. That's why my teacher was
Yeah.
telling me this. That's why they would say this at church. This is why it starts to click. But we got to bump that
Mm-hmm.
head a little bit along the way before it all makes sense. So, what about you, Levi? You had a chance to talk to that young Levi. He's doing his thing, as a young man, trying to make his way. You know how boys are. Sometimes we get a little knucklehead, hard head. We think we know it all. Because we're a man, we tough. All that. What would you say to the younger version of Levi to kind of get him straightened out, get his mind right? Some words of wisdom to share.
Mm. Well, my younger self, what I wish, what I wish I would have been told, I guess, is to do not become a, do not become a victim of your surroundings, your circumstances, or just be a person uh, that where you don't have your own thoughts and thinking. You are an individual, so you think as an individual, not as as I mean a group of guys that are that hang out in the street. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, when you're playing on a team, you must think as a team player. But when you are, or when you're ripping and running, hey man, these streets are not. Uh, there's no glory in them. There's no glory in the streets at all. I ran them. I mean, as I stated before, I left school. I left high school at a very early age. So, okay, so what was left, okay, for me at that time, right, is to get a little piece of job, hustle, and and just rip and run the streets with the other, guys and older guys. So just think for yourself. Think of of where you want to go in life, what you want to do. Just because you are in a certain place right now doesn't mean you're going to always be there. So you're not trapped. You're not trapped. You're only trapped in your mind if you allow your thinking not 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 to progress, but to keep you, where you are right now is, hey, I mean, that's a trap. Don't do that to yourself. Allow yourself to grow and to experience, other things. I mean, even if you're a young guy, or a girl, I mean, allow yourself to experience, young things. Be, uh, uh, you don't always have to run behind someone. You can be your leader. You are a leader. We are leaders. And we must act in that way as a leader. Don't become a victim of your circumstances of where you are in life right now, because as you live and the longer you live, guess what happens? You get older. So you don't want to get stuck in this rut of of that that young self, and now it done carried all the way through your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, right? So you will get older, and a lot of times, now don't get me wrong, it's not too late to start learning anything, but while you're young, you want to carve that path for yourself, no matter if it's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. You think think in the future, right? Things are not always going to be like they are today. So that's
That's
that's kind of what I would say. I kind of went over a little bit, but
no,
that's what I would say to myself. I was talking to myself, actually.
you
I was
know
talking.
what? But I'm not. I had one. I appreciate what you had to say, but two, don't even stress about the whole thing about hey, I'm talking about. I do that all the time. When
Yeah.
I'm on my and there's power in that. People sometimes think you're crazy when you're talking to yourself, but like I've called myself talking to God. But then as I'm talking to God, I'm also talking the answer out to myself. Like he's revealing to me as I'm talking to him what the answer to my own question is. And I'm like, okay, boom, that's where I'm supposed to glean from this. That's what I'm supposed to understand. So it's like I'm reiterating it to myself. I'm reinforcing it for myself, and that's all you were doing in sharing what you were sharing. That's why it felt the way that it felt. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
talking to myself because you're realizing that's why I asked the question because it makes you to. I think it's important that we reflect back again on that journey. What have I
Mm.
learned? What is, am I, because if I don't make any changes, as you stated, if I don't make any changes, if I don't mature in just my overall way of thinking and operating and functioning, then a young knucklehead just turns, whether it's male or female, will just become an old knucklehead. Same stuff,
Yeah.
just an older version of it. you
Yeah.
know, there should be some evidence of change, some evidence of development, some evidence of individualized thinking, and vision and purpose, and not saying I can't be here or I can't do that or this or the other because I came from, very humble beginnings, or I didn't have this, or my daddy wasn't in the home, or this or that or the other. Yeah, these things make it more challenging when we're lacking in certain areas, but it doesn't make it impossible for you to persevere, to overcome, to survive it all. And again, get to the point where you do awesome and great works. And it's never, and I like the point that you made. It's never too late. It's never too late. So it can't be, well, now I'm past my 30s or now I'm past my 40s, so I'm done. No, you're not. Unless you're
Yeah.
choosing to be done. That's a choice, but it doesn't have to be that way. So good
Yes.
stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, before we close out, I do want to give an opportunity to just to celebrate the two of you. I know you all are, as I said at the top of the show, you're doing some great and awesome and wonderful things. So if you would just share with the audience real quick, what things are you working on, projects? I know you got your podcast. Tell people a little bit about that and what you're doing and what's ahead for the Reed family, the Reed crew. Tell us a little bit about that and how people can connect with you if they're interested in anything that you have to offer.
Yes, okay. Well, I would be glad to tell you guys if we were one on one, but Lamika, explains it so well.
Oh,
I'm just gonna let her say it. Tell her what we doing and what's up.
All right.
well, the road is not easy. I'm gonna share that. But no, we do. We have a podcast that we've been airing since June of last year. A lot of people ask us how we get our guests, and I'm gonna share just a little bit. But we are a part of a dynamic group, and this group believes in relationship building, and so we have a we the podcast is how service providers are making a difference in their community, and it is a show that is specifically directly related to what you want to talk about, what you're doing in your field of service. We also have a virtual event, 5 day challenge that we have been doing, and we also have a high ticket offer. So that it's something that has been predicted. We are in the trend of business per se. And so but yeah, so yeah, we're just really excited about what we're doing with our podcast, with our virtual events, with our high ticket offers, and we're just excited to share every day we do on social media. We share everything that we do. Our methodology is what we call it, our system, and we have guests like Joseph that comes on our show, and he shares what he's doing in his particular field of service. And we appreciate you, Joseph, and we thank you for allowing us to come on and to share just a little bit about who we are and why we're here today. So that's really the gist of it. We do podcasts daily. The podcasts are aired daily. Um, we do our virtual events every quarter, every 3 months. We do have one coming up in August, August 21st through the 25th, for anyone that may want, to enhance their business or to grow, leads qualified, and to nurture them and to then convert them over to clients or patients or whatever that looks like for you. And so yeah, so that's pretty much of what we do in a nutshell.
All right. Well, how do people the name of your podcast? Tell everybody the name of your podcast and how they can connect with you if they want to watch it or like I said, benefit from any of your products or services. How it's best to follow you or reach you or connect with you.
Okay, sure. Okay. The name of the podcast is Redox for Life. Okay, that's the name of the podcast, and that's also how you can reach us too. Is a Redox for Life at gmail.com, which is the email, and then also you can reach us. No, let me see. The phone number is area code 773-458-0913, and let me
You can
see.
find us on Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
All right.
exactly. Redox for Life.
Awesome.
Reidox
All right.
for the number 4 LIFE.
Okay. Okay. And again, of course, I'm familiar with it, but for those who are listening, Redox for Life, everybody, check them out. Like I said, I've had the pleasure of being on their podcast, so you can catch their podcast episodes. They're on every day. Good stuff, good people. Just again, trying to change the world in the way that God positioned them to do so. It has been a pleasure having the two of you on the show, on the podcast. So this has been a wonderful time as always. It was like again, I've hung out with you a couple of times before, so I didn't expect anything less than that. So you just confirmation once again that you're good people to be around and to know. So, and those who are watching, again, if you're yeah, if you've enjoyed the content that's been shared today on our podcast, please subscribe, like, share, comment on that. Of course, you can reach out to me at blessingsinthestreets.com. And I'm also on social media platforms, Mr. Joseph B. Roberts on Instagram. I have a Blessings in the Streets Facebook page as well. And like I said, we already have some pre-launch podcast episodes going on right now. The official launch, of course, at the time that the video will at the time that this podcast episode will air, we'll already be in full swing. But we got episodes available right now that you can get some information, some snippets on my book, Blessings in the Streets, if you want to check out certain aspects of that as well. So, again, it's been a pleasure having the two of you on. Love having you aboard with me. As always, it's been a great time. And here at Blessings in the Street podcast, just remember, this is the place where your story is your glory, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Please tune in next time. And until then, God bless. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you with a lot more empowering and encouraging stories to share. And hope that this whole mission, this whole calling that we have here will be life-changing for you and worth your time. So take care of yourselves.
All right. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All
You do the
right.
same.
All right.